Hello and welcome to my studio. I had been wanting to clean out my studio and sort everything for a while now, and I finally did it today. So I thought I'll share the much awaited studio tour before it becomes messy again, and also how I store my art supplies. I will also try to leave the links for as many things in my studio as I can, but note that most of the things in the studio are accumulated over time. This is kind of like the third bedroom in the house, usually used as the baby room or a study here in the UK. It can probably fit a single bed in here, so you get the idea of the space in the room. When we moved into this house and I had half the art supplies I have now, this room was the perfect studio size for me and for all my creative work. Over the past year, I have grown a lot as an artist, accumulated more art supplies, and with the YouTube and Skillshare video shooting, I have started to feel that I need a much bigger space. But I guess that's the story of every artist as you keep growing. I store most of the books, many related to watercolor painting, my watercolor paper blocks, and sketchbooks here in this larger cupboard here. As you can see, the cupboard has perfectly fit into this tiny space between my table and the wall, giving me easy access to my paper and sketchbook as and when I need them. On the top of the shelf are some of the cardboard boxes that I've collected mostly from Amazon orders, which I find it hard to throw away. I have these mini plastic drawers here which I bought last time during my trip to India, which I used to store some of my watercolor paints such as these ones from Arteza. The next drawer contains my set of Mijello Mission watercolors followed by some of my extra White Nights watercolors. The last drawer in this one is where I store my Daniel Smith, Schmincke and Winsor & Newton watercolor tubes. I get them as individual tubes as necessary, so I've decided to store them all together here. I have another one of these mini plastic drawer set, and that's where I store most of the extra stationery stuff, cute gifts from friends and some of my paint stock cubes. On the left here is this tiny holder I've attached to the cupboard to hold my hairdryer, which I use in almost every watercolor painting to quickly dry my paper, and this space provided the best place for it, right next to my table. Over to the left of the cupboard is where I keep some large things like my A2 acrylic board, cutting mat, and other random things like the tub I use to soak and stretch my watercolor papers along with some extra cables. Then right next to the window here is my table from IKEA, where I'm working on an autumn gouache painting at the moment. The right side of the table is where I keep most of the brushes and some stationery pens and pencils that I use most often. One of the favorite things here on my desk is this brush holder which I got from Amazon, and I love the fact that it rotates and I can sort and store all my brushes, giving me easy access to the right brush when I need it. As you can see over here, I've also got some brushes separated out from the main holder, as these are the brushes that I'm using for the online class project that I'm currently working on. Towards the right wall, I've attached 3 IKEA lac shelves to the wall to store more art supplies, plus it's right where I can reach it from my table. On the top shelf, I've kept the things I hardly use, such as my palette knives and old brushes, among other things. The second shelf holds some decor items and my art philosophy palettes. The bottom shelf is what I use the most, so I've kept my most used supplies here. I got this 3-tier spice rack from Amazon so that I can store all my liquid watercolors and easily arrange them on it. Below the shelf, I've got this chest of drawers, the top of which I have used as a perfect space to store my little file organizer and printer. I use the file organizer to store paintings from different projects that I'm working on at a time, like my Skillshare classes, Patreon, YouTube, and other collaborations. Then on the wall, I've hung up the swatch sheet I made for my Sennelier 98 tubes watercolor set so that I can refer to the colors quickly when I need them. And to the right side of it is where I've decorated the studio to remind me that this room is my space, and also to showcase to myself some of the best artworks that I've made when I need some motivation and inspiration. On the back wall is then this table here where I've kept all the materials for the different projects that I'm working on. I switch between working on Patreon, Skillshare and YouTube, so I keep all the necessary supplies here on the table and shift it into my main table as and when needed. In the tiny space here is where I kept my tripod, my iPad stand and a heater, which definitely comes in handy during the winter. Now back to this chest of drawers here. The top drawer is where I store more of my watercolor tubes. This is the Sandeep 98 set. Then the tubes from my custom color palette, which is a combination of different brands such as Schmincke, White Knights and Daniel Smith. I've got my various Viviva color sheets here, and underneath which I've stored the different Escoda travel brush sets. I've also got these watercolor tubes from Supervision Art, which they send me out to try, but I haven't had the time yet to explore them. The second drawer contains more of my art supplies, mainly my box sets such as the Masterclass Gouache set from White Knights, Art Philosophy oil pastel sets, my extra White Knights tubes, Sandeep mini box, Van Gogh pocket box, etc. And this tin here is where I store my White Knights tubes. They are my absolute favorite paints and the one that I use the most in my paintings. The third and final drawer is where I keep all the other random stuff such as paint pans, sponges and everything else. Under the table, I've got another set of plastic drawers, and that is where I store all my washi and masking tapes, all my ceramic and plastic palettes, etc. And that is all the things in my tiny little studio. I hope you like this little studio tour and my art supplies organization. If you're wondering about all the shooting equipment near my table, I have this video where I explain how I shoot videos during the daytime and at night. I'll be coming up with another video soon on how I shoot my fully fledged classes, as that is completely different from the equipment I use for my Instagram posts and reels. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to get notified as soon as I add a new video. Until next time, this is Geetu signing off. Bye bye.